I don't think we have a resolution, but well, you might be. I hear from them, but we're gonna talk about it. So, okay, welcome everyone.
Capital L.
You know, we have a couple guests, so I would love to go around the room and introduce ourselves. I'm Trisha, Trisha Joyce. I'm the chair of the committee. Bob?
I'm Bob Townley. I'm the executive director and founder of Manhattan Youth.
Hi, I'm Michael Walsh. I'm the co-PTA president from LMC Middle School.
My name is Dylan. I'm a student from not reporting for publication right now for a grade. So I'm just like observing right now.
Great, welcome.
I'm Eva Burton. I'm here with Tom, when you go have the cell and volume.
My name is Kasayabi, and I am advising Tom and Eva on some fun new stuff that we are pursuing at Manhattan by Sale, and we'll talk about that later.
Great,
I'm also constituent.
okay, good.
Tom Burton, with Manhattan by Sale, and we're here to discuss the new nonprofit Buoyant USA, which is going to be attempting to restore the Shearwater, and its changed mission with Buoyant as its lead for the programmatic element.
Oh,
Andrew Zelter, member of the Internet Committee.
wonderful, welcome everybody. Oh, online? Board members online? Just want to say, just say hello, because so people can see who you are.
Good evening. I'm Daron Charkoudian, member of Youth and Ed for the last 6-7 years.
I'm Ann Hager. I'm a former member of Schools and Ed on CB2 and an LMC parent here to talk a little bit about LMC and possible expansion plans. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Cody Lindquist. I'm a member of the Community Education Council for District 2. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ansley. I'm a parent at LMC Middle School, and I'm here with Ann to talk about a possible expansion plan.
Hi, I'm Erin Carr. Like Cody, I'm also on the Community Education Council in District 2.
Excellent. Right, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. We'll jump right into our presentation by the CEC, who we're so happy is joining us. It's been a long time since we saw you guys. I think a lot has turned over since the last time I've been at the meeting, so I'm really happy you guys are ready to come. And I really think we just were, curious as to what you are working on now. I think it's great for our parents to hear what's on upcoming agendas. Anything we can do as representing Lower Manhattan. If there's anything that you have specifically to tell us because of where we are, or whether we can support you in some way. It was just a great opportunity to connect and just catch up a little bit, really. So please jump in, whatever you'd like to share.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start, and then Erin, if you want to add on. So we are members of the Community Education Council, which is essentially like the school board in New York City. We have mayoral control of schools, so our mayor is in charge. And so in lieu of a school board, we have a group of parents and interested parties. We're not all parents, but most of us are, who come up with resolutions, discuss things that are concerning everyone in our district. We have 34 districts in New York City, I think. We represent, I could be wrong on that, but we represent District 2, which is all of Manhattan south of 59th Street and also the Upper East Side. There's a small section in there in Chinatown that is District 1, but we are a huge district, so we represent a lot of schools. Our CEC is pre-K through 8th grade. So 10 of the members are elected by parents. 32 districts, thank you, Craig, in New York City. We have been elected, 10 of us were elected by parents in New York City. And then 2 were appointed by the Manhattan Borough President. There are also separate CECs for high school, District 75, ELL. We can add all of that in. All of that is to say, we are the parent voices for District 2. So our goal is to hear from as many parents as possible and to bring forth any issues that you might have, any concerns you might have to our monthly meetings. The superintendent is always there, and we're basically there to be your voices. We're always looking for things that matter to you. There is a lot of overlap for the community boards as well for some of the things that we advocate for. But yeah, we're a voice. We like to pass resolutions of things that are concerning you. And so our main thing is to let everyone know that we exist and that we're able to be a voice if you have any issues or anything you want. We're all volunteers. So we pass resolutions. They're non-binding necessarily, but the more people we have advocating for certain things, I think the better that is. So there's a lot going on in Manhattan right now. There's a lot going on with the schools. As you discussed, or you're going to discuss later on, we had a discussion about a possible high school that has been proposed in the same building as LMC. So that is definitely something we are paying attention to and discussing in our meetings. Erin, is there anything you want to jump in and discuss? Any resolutions we've passed that might be relevant to the community board one?
Sure. I mean, I think that one of the things that has come up that we haven't passed a resolution on yet, but is certainly aligns with what's happening at the LMC campus is the use of AI in schools. This, from talking to parents at my own son's school and just from things that just keep popping up. I run into people who are running for council seats and state legislators who also have very strong feelings about the DOE's handling of regulations around AI. And now with this proposed, tech high school with a large focus on AI, I think it's vital that we have protections there and that it's very clear what they're doing. But I think Cody covered it pretty well in terms of what we do. I like to see us as being like a conduit between parents and the DOE, and we are there to amplify the wishes of the community and, to make decisions that we feel are best for the students in District 2.
Fantastic. Anyone have any questions? Bob?
I should know the answer to this because I've testified before them before. I understand the CEC, but the chancellor, Department of Education, holds a monthly meeting, and that sounds like a CEC, but it's not a CEC meeting. It's once a month. Is the new chancellor still conducting those meetings? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I think you're referring to the PEP meetings, the Panel for Educational Policy. That's comprised of there are members from the CEC, there are members who are appointed by the mayor, and then I believe each borough president also appoints a member.
Right.
Anybody else from our CEC, please pop in the comments if I'm incorrect.
Yeah, let us know.
But they are the actual decision makers in terms of, school contracts, things like this school proposal coming forward. They are the ones who decide ultimately whether or not something is approved.
And they do
And the
listen
chancellor
to
is
us.
present there. Yeah.
They do listen to us, but we don't have ultimate voting say on whether some of these decisions get made.
Chancellor Farinya used to have a bi-monthly meeting at Tweed for the youth and ed chairs, as well as the CEC only. And it was a really fantastic opportunity to expand on, like, the PEP meetings were very much about these contracts, whereas the community board and CEC meetings can really speak to, well, things like we're about to deal with LMC. You know, that we would hear about these things before they were put into motion. And normally, elementary schools, when they go to be cited, come to us, and I'm sure to you too. But this situation we're having with the high school is a perfect example of something that's gotten through the cracks because of the structure. Have you all talked about that at the CEC in terms of school citing on, you know, where an elementary school might want to expand, a high school is then put in?
Yeah. So we have a monthly meeting and it's open to the public and the superintendent is there. We get reports from different parts of the DOE regularly. So the superintendent came to us this month to present on the new high school plan. Now, we heard about it this month, just like assuming everyone else. And a lot of us were not happy about that. They have to present to us. When they present to us, it could be a week before they apply. So, you know, it is frustrating to us. In general, we get we get plans in general of things that they're hoping to build or hoping to move in the future. So, you know, we do have some things that are, Hudson Yards, for instance, had an elementary school that has been in the works for a really long time. The district planning office comes to us in our meeting and they're all public and everyone's welcome to come. You know, we do get those things ahead of time, but yeah, they have to present they should be presenting to the interested parties, including the CEC, including the PTA, and definitely wasn't, in our opinion, we weren't presented to in a timely fashion this time.
So,
Andrew?
so a couple of questions. One, I'd be curious as to your perspective on the city's progress in general, but perhaps more specifically District 2 on reducing class sizes. And then second question, and apologies if this is a bit controversial, but if I understand the numbers, you mentioned there are 32 districts or CEC.
32 districts, plus we have the CCELL, the CCHS, the CCSE, and CCD 75.
And so 32 districts. This CEC covers essentially all of Manhattan, south of 59th Street and the Upper East Side. That sounds like just a huge territory or coverage.
Very big, yes.
Have there been discussions about allocating
About making
more
them
resources?
smaller?
Or splitting up that region across other CECs?
Well, we're not the biggest CEC, honestly.
Staten Island is the biggest.
Yeah, that's the biggest. Yeah, I mean, it seems odd. I'm sure all of these districts were drawn, you know, a long time ago, and it does seem odd, but no, there has been no discussion that I'm aware of to make them more manageable. I mean, I think that would require them hiring more superintendents, and
Right.
that seems like a bureaucratic change that I haven't heard anyone advocating for. I'm not saying that it's not wrong, but, and then one thing I want to say, they have 45 days before the expected PEP vote to share to us, according to the chancellor's regulations. So we did get presented with this AI high school in the correct time frame, but you know, 45 days isn't, in my opinion, always great for such a big change, for sure.
Were they notified?
And it is my understanding. Oh, sorry.
What?
I was just going to say, it's my understanding that even for the members of PEP, they are often presented with things very late, you know, like right up to the limit before they have a meeting, and they're voting on so many things. And I think that's also an issue because how are they going to successfully make a vote on something if they don't have the time to actually read it?
Right.
And
So
then,
are they voting to approve the school coming up? Is that it? Or is, because I understood it was a fait accompli, that they hired a principal.
No,
So
they're
which-
voting to, the PEP
Okay.
has to vote to approve the school. And it's the
They
end of
have.
April. They will vote. They have not voted yet.
They have not voted.
They have to vote at a meeting at the end of April.
Great, okay, that's helpful.
So,
And then there's a
yes, and
comments
it was
period.
frustrating because they have a website. It was frustrating to us because it did feel like we weren't getting a presentation on a possible school. It felt like we were getting a presentation on a school that's already existing. They claim that they have to do that in order to get the ball rolling if it is approved. But yeah, it's not approved yet. We have until the end of April.
And they say they expect to open in the fall?
That's what they
That's
said.
what they said.
Okay,
and then, sorry, just coming back, your perspective or thoughts on progress with reducing class sizes?
We got a presentation on that actually last month, right, Erin?
Was
From
it
the
last
superintendent?
month? Yes.
I
Yeah, I
think,
mean, it's
is it
been an ongoing
80%
discussion.
in District 2 or we're at 60%, I think, in District 2. They're making a lot of progress. There are some schools that are having a harder time, but what we heard was most of the schools that aren't fully compliant yet with the class size law, a lot of their different classes are in compliance or like 1 or 2 over. So even though a school might say that it isn't compliant yet, it might have, 24 kids instead of 23 for the upper grades. But yeah, they're currently seems to be making quite a significant shift in that direction.
There are some schools, I know Clinton is a school, a 6 through 12 school in our district that is quite over enrolled. They have, well over 35 kids in classes. And, one of the issues, this is also another one of our schools in our district, Salk, is needing to look for a new location because there just physically is not enough space. I think that the barriers in meeting that mandate are the way that it's structured. The DOE is structured with the SCA, the School Construction Authority. I don't think it's a great system. I think that in my experience, the SCA tends to move rather slowly. There is not a lot of choice in terms of, the timeline of construction, who's doing the construction, any of that, for making changes to a building where there can be changes. And then in terms of finding a site, that there are lots of complications around that. I think one of the things that I have spoken to people, including our District 2 superintendent, about is the need for more guidance. The impression that I have had from a couple of my liaison schools where they're dealing with this is that they've been sort of left to kind of like figure it out to a certain extent. There has been some involvement, but I think that there could be more done proactively in terms of sorting that issue, because there are certain schools where I'm not sure how they're going to physically do it.
And currently, schools are supposed to be discussing with their SLTs, their school leadership teams, ways that they are able to comply. If anyone in Community Board 1 or anywhere else in District 2 has a issue or they want to highlight a school that they think is way over the limit, we're always happy to hear that too. Each of us has a list of schools that we're supposed to be a direct liaison to, as Erin said. So, but all of us are happy to highlight any issues that you might have and bring it to the full board meeting as well.
we had a situation where there were some parents in schools that were over-enrolled that didn't want to make changes because it meant that they would have less sections on the grade and obviously less ability, more barriers to getting into the schools. Have you been receiving the same sort of communication?
We
on
have
that?
currently right now the plan is that they will not cut enrollment. Currently the plan from the top down is that they have to figure out ways to meet the demand without cutting enrollment. I know people are concerned that
Spaces.
eventually they'll have to. But that is not the current state of affairs.
So are they
So
thinking things like annexes to be able to
opening
execute
new
that?
schools, I don't know. I mean, these are the things we've brought up in our meeting, and it's kind of a, we're doing everything we can to get the schools that are able to be compliant, and we'll figure out the rest as we go. They have until 2028.
Right. Because that's a tricky one, there's such, the concern was that either there were gonna be barriers to getting in, or that there'd be a loss of programming if they start, moving around rooms and repurposing them, and I think it's a valid concern, and not all schools can have annexes built onto them like we did at 234 and other places, so that will be a challenge because of the way schools are built and that we're in a dense urban environment in terms of adding on to a school. So I'd be really curious to keep in touch about that, because I'm sure that our parents will have questions. Bob?
Tricia, yeah. Off topic, but I do want to come back to AI. The signals I'm getting is the city is in a fiscal crisis. And that the state has a budget deficit too. So all that tends to play into local decision-making and programs and all that. But anyway, we'll see how that shakes out. The AI question, has that program with the principal been cited at a specific physical location?
You mean the new proposed AI high school?
Yes, yes.
Yes, they want to have it at the LMC building.
In
Where
LMC,
Urban
and they
Assembly
want,
was.
I know
Yes.
we're coming back to LMC, but.
Oh, no,
but,
it hasn't been
We
cited,
just had a
sorry.
school leave, we had a school leave there. The charter school left, right? And they moved over to the Blue School, the former Blue School. And so they're thinking in that space, there would be a high school that would concentrate on artificial intelligence.
Yeah, so that's
did I got that right?
that's the proposed site. And that's
Right,
the
I got it.
proposed idea. And the PEP,
So there's
the
parents
Panel for
here that are
Education
gonna let
Policy,
Mike-
decides on that at the end
I
of
got it.
April.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let a parent chime in right now on that comment because he's nodding no.
Thank you for a
Yeah,
moment to clarify.
good.
The charter school has left, there's an existing school, it's the 2 floors below LMC. It is called the Urban Assembly School for Women.
Yes.
They want to close that school this year and open their new high school in the Urban Assembly space next year.
Good.
The former charter space, I don't have the information.
And it's rental space, it's an
The
office building.
building is, yes, the
Yeah.
UA rents all the space.
I got it, thank you.
The charter school is an arts charter school and it's a middle school. Because I was opening when my kids were at LMC, so I remember that. It being a different
Yeah,
school.
that's what.
I don't know if that school is still in that building, maybe someone at
I think
LMC.
it's moving, it's in the process of moving to the Blue School building.
Oh, that's the charter school that's moving.
The charter school has moved
And
already.
then, I can throw this back to Cody and Aaron, but I don't think in the presentation at the CEC meeting, the charter school space was ever brought up in the conversation.
That's interesting.
They maybe they had different,
Well, it's a very small school, so I don't even know if it's worth talking to LMC about it, because it wouldn't be adequate to expand LMC into the charter school space, but it's just something good to keep an eye on if it's leaving, So
Well-
Cody, what were you saying before I diverted off?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure we had the right facts on that before we go
No, that's
discuss it
important, that's
anymore.
important, yeah.
Stacy?
Going back to the class size, Cody and Aaron, and hi, Stacy, Bert, I was on the way here before. I just wanted to see if you could get some statistics for us, maybe for our next meeting, about specifically CB1 schools and how compliant they are with the reduced class size. I think that would be helpful to understand specifically for our community.
Yeah, I don't have those stats off the top of my head, but we could certainly look into that.
I
Send
will
them later.
say, I believe a lot of the Community Board 1 schools in general, a lot of the schools downtown have had a shift in population density. So there has been more under enrollment in certain schools, and we can try to find out for you which ones. You know.
234 is under.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a discussion at the higher level of just in general, like demographic changes all over the city. And I think, I'm pretty sure that downtown has had, I mean, well, you guys would know more than us, but a shifting demographic and families living in that area. So it would be interesting to see, and we're happy to look into that for you.
And for the schools that have become compliant, again, are there observations as to what strategies are driving their success becoming compliant? Is it an element of under enrollment?
I mean, that's part of it, honestly. There is a little bit of under enrollment that has helped certain schools. Some schools had massive buildings or had certain schools close and they were able to move in. A lot of places were like, no big deal. We applied for more money, we hired more teachers, done, we have the space. Anything that was able to comply in an easy way is complying. And now we're getting into the tricky thing of like, well, we don't want to turn a library into classrooms to get rid of. We're doing all of this tricky shifting. So that's why I think this year, particularly coming up, is going to be, where we get a little bit more sticky with certain situations at certain schools.
I was just going to add really quickly that there are certain schools, as Cody said, that aren't under enrolled, but that were very large. I have a son at PS 41, which is a popular school, but it's a very, there's a lot of school there. So we were able to do it. The other thing that I should note is that not everybody went into automatic compliance. Last year, they had to apply, you have to apply for the funding in order to open like the extra sections. And so last year we were able to do 3 grades, and then they have applied for another 3 grades this year. So it'll be kindergarten through 5th. And I will say that the difference in having a smaller class size for my kid and for so many other kids I see the difference. He is in an ICT class with 19 kids, and it's fantastic. And I think it's, he does not have an IEP, but I think that for the kids who do have IEPs, it's an even greater benefit because they really can break off into those small groups.
That's amazing. There's someone online, if there can't see their name, gentleman in the middle, who's he? Yes.
Gavin, please unmute yourself. It's on the bottom. Should be on the left-hand side, the bottom of the screen.
He's still muted.
Yeah, he has to do it, I requesting of us.
Does anybody else have a question while we're waiting? Yes.
I'll fill. Shifting gears from a minute, I as PTA president, also on the SLT, and just I can give you a reflection from LMC. Our issues, we're in the same position as Cody was talking about. I mean, we're mostly there, but there are some last mile issues, and a lot of it has to do with not only space but staffing as well. Smaller class sizes need more staff, and then trying to figure out the speed. But I feel like we're very close. I mean, I think the school was working on things to that effect before this proposal came up. But now, like what they're proposing and what we've done, there is a little gap. It's trying to figure out how to get with that. So. And in terms of implementation, when we see at the SLT level, they are there's a survey asking like what percentage do you think your school is now, what percentage you can get from the next. So it's not a matter of like our deadlines. It's like how can we work year over year to reach this guidance.
Right. Good to know.
Gavin, are you there?
Yeah.
He's not able to get his mic to work.
Can I ask a follow-up to Cody and Aaron? Or perhaps the gentleman in the back of the room. So I understand the correlation between staff and space. Assuming a school has space, did I understand that there's a process of applying for funding to address the staffing needs?
Yep.
Yes.
So
So
at the
they,
end of the year, you apply for funds, and certain schools get picked and certain ones don't. I mean, it's a funding thing, but yeah.
but I think from what
So
I
you-
understand, every school that applied for the funding for increased for to add the extra sections, I believe they didn't.
No. Mm-mm. I think they prioritized based on, because I know 2 schools in my neighborhood did not, or 1 school in my neighborhood did not get the funding, even though they applied for it. But I wonder too, like, again, it's a case by case basis. Yeah, so I don't know. I obviously it's the state law that it's going to have to be by 2028. So we'll see.
So if the school's making a case that they need to reduce class size, they have space, and they apply for funding, they get rejected, they just have to reapply the following year, or what's the
I believe
mechanism for
so.
addressing?
Yeah.
I believe they just reapply.
But I just want to reiterate, overall, it feels like our district is doing a really good job of getting close. And not every school, and there are a lot of schools that are very over enrolled, as Aaron said, but on the whole, we're getting there.
I think it's more challenging. We don't represent high schools. We just represent elementary schools and
Yes.
middle
Good
schools.
point.
And I think with high schools, they have a bigger problem in terms of compliance because of, with a very popular school, people are like clamoring to get in. They're full and a lot of them have space issues. So I think that's been a bigger issue for high schools.
Yeah, sure. Okay, great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for the CEC?
I
Questions, comments?
Yeah, something we talked about a little bit ago, Cody, and I'd love to explore it more is, downtown schools are very condensed, District 2 in general, but maybe talking about a potential resolution in the future that addresses safety around, a lot of these are one-way streets around the schools. There's a lot of issues with traffic, cars are very close. Is that something that you guys have talked about within the CEC?
We've had some beginning discussions with it. Would love to partner. I live in Midtown, so it's very similar in a lot of ways. We have a lot of traffic issues. Yeah, I would love to partner on any ideas anyone might have for resolutions. But street safety was something that you and I discussed. I would love to come up with a resolution to try to do more slow streets and open streets in front of every elementary school and middle school in the district. So yeah, I mean, something like that, certainly in the pipeline for us to discuss. We got a little sidetracked with the AI high school thing. Yeah, but we're always looking for ways to partner, and street safety is one of my big issues that I'm passionate about. So I think that would be wonderful for a condensed district like CB1.
Okay, great. And what are you hearing anything about crossing guards?
Crossing guards are, I think, a totally separate issue. They're part of the police department.
City.
Aaron, do you?
Yeah, that's something that's not controlled by the DOE. So for example, when my son started at PS 41 in pre-K, we were able to ask Eric Botcher's help with getting crossing guards, and we have had 2 permanent crossing guards since. So it was really through reaching out to the council member who represents the district that the school is located in.
Do you think that's a good way for it to operate, or do you feel as though the DOE should be more involved?
I mean,
I think that that it's not a great way. I mean, I think that there's an issue that I have run into with different, not just in terms of education, but I think in general, and New York is not alone in this, but I think that there is a lack of integration or communication between city agencies. And I feel like there's a lot of like redundancy in what you have to do to get something accomplished.
Yes.
And quite honestly, sometimes there inadvertently working against one another. So I think that's sort of like a larger systemic issue. But I do think that there should be more involvement in terms of DOE discretion to request and receive crossing guards. One of
And
the
move
reasons that
crossing guards.
yes, and one of the reasons that we got the crossing guards is because we have a district where we had a great council member and a pretty vocal community. And my concern is always in communities where people don't feel as connected to their representative, or don't even know that they can request that.
Exactly.
That's like a concern of mine.
We passed a
And when I say
resolution.
district, I mean in terms of like council district, which is separate than the school district, as you know, but for anyone who doesn't.
We had no success going the route that you had success with. And I think that's, so you nailed that point, is that we're all left to advocate for ourselves, as if this was some sort of, amenity, something special outside, what a school's responsibility is. And so we passed a resolution that requested that they make this position full-time and run it through DOE school safety. And it's the department that has like a gentle relationship with the NYPD. The school safety officers are NYPD trained, but they tend to work around the school system primarily.
And they're not paid for by the NYPD or by the DOE. They're paid for by city, from the city council budget. And so that's something that goes back again to like, this is a place where we can advocate to city council as leaders, community leaders, that they're just the way that they have provided a budget line for school safety agents. There should be a budget, and now maybe there is a budget line for crossing guards that I'm unaware of, but I don't recall seeing one.
Well, I was about to put on to April, since we have a new mayor settled in now. I was gonna put it on to April to pass yet another, it'll be our third resolution on this. But I'm thinking that the support could be there with this mayor to do something like this. Bill de Blasio said he was gonna make 200 full-time positions, and then also add, benefits to the other 100. And it was really not well run out. It didn't really come to pass. We had a small surge in better coverage at the beginning of his, whatever you want to call it. And then it just died out. And so he had the right idea. And we felt as though it should be under DOE jurisdiction, because to make it a full-time position, it was intuitive to have the guards work inside the schools as yard assistants, or some other position that was compliant with the structure that it could be, given that it's coming through that department. And they found that, school aides, yard assistants, all fell within the same jurisdiction of a crossing guard. And the reason I'm telling you all this is, if you would like to do this resolution together, it's something we consider doing in April. And I think it could be much more powerful if we teamed up with you as we go to this administration with this. So let me know if you're interested.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that more. And I think that's a perfect example of, we are all advocates for the community, and the education committee, specifically aligns a lot with what we do. So I do think there is power when multiple community organizations have a similar resolution. So yeah, I would love to talk about that more, and anything else you think that we could advocate for and team up on, I think is a really good
great.
idea.
So I'll ping you between meetings and we can get it started. Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it. This was super helpful and great to meet you all. And, we look forward to working more closely together. And thank you, Stacy, for setting it up. So, and we'd love
Thank you
to-
guys so much.
Thank
We'll get
you.
to some of this too.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. So moving on to Buoyant USA. We have Tom Burton here, who would like to speak to us about his Harbor Camp program.
Saiapi, who's our consultant in establishing the nonprofit, she's with McKinsey in this field. Yeah, I'll let her, introduce herself, but, she'll, discuss. We're looking more of a discussion than a.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Absolutely. So it's great to meet all of you. Where should I stand? It's my first time coming to one of these
Anywhere you
meetings.
like.
As close to the owls as possible, I apologize, so that way they can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, wait, yes. Shocker. It's so nice to be here. I've been wanting to come to one of these meetings for a long time. I've been down at 99 John Street since the pandemic moved in sight unseen, and I love the community and love getting involved. So like Tom mentioned, well, he didn't mention this, but I had the immense fortune last summer of getting married on board the Clipper City. And when I asked Tom, hey, what are you working on? How can I help? He mentioned that him and Eva have been talking about setting up Buoyant as a nonprofit arm, branch, spinoff of some sort for some time. And I was like, great, I have a background in nonprofit administration and an MBA, so I have the business and the nonprofit piece. Let's get this going. And wanted to bring this to you guys today to have a little bit of a discussion and get the community involved early in what the spirit and the mission and the approach of Buoyant could be and should be to serve our community best. Right now, we're currently hoping that Buoyant can bring maritime education to the public in many, many different ways, from kids to adults, and expand access in general to the water, since literally down the street is the original harbor of New York City and the reason that we're all sort of here today. And one of the programs that we're really excited about Buoyant spearheading is a revitalization of the Harbor Camp, which is something that I believe has sort of rested and has not been active for some time, in getting kids access to the water and access to learning not only how to sail, but like what is on the waterfront, what kind of animals, what kind of ecosystems, what do oysters do, all of those types of things. And the question that I wanted to bring to you guys and have a discussion about is the Shearwater ship is also turning 100 years old in 2029. Wow. Which is one of the most unique things I think about Manhattan by Sail, and the point is that we have access to this 100-year-old ship that literally arrived in New York a month before this and has served looking for U-boats during World War II, and was a military boat, and then was medical and went through 9/11 and the financial crisis, and has this huge storied history. And we want to bring her back to full glory for 1929 to 2029. And the question I have really is, we want kids to be involved, and we need to raise money for this boat's restoration. We could try to do both at the same time, right? But we're going to need, there's only so many hours in the day. And so if we're pursuing, hey, kids on the waterfront, this is great. I feel like there's a risk of shutting the door to, hey, here's this 100-year-old boat that we also want to restore, and the kids can learn how to restore and use the boat for that, for that purpose. Or if we just focus on raising, $1-2 million to restore this boat, are we missing a bunch of opportunities to get kids on the water faster? Curious, anyone's thoughts around that? And then more broadly as well, we're hoping that Buoyant will be able to have education programs that are like summer camps that are taking place fully on the boat, Monday through Friday, kids coming on board with different sessions every day. And this may not spin up until the Shearwater is restored. Kind of the order of operations here is really a question in my mind. Let me pause. Tom, is there anything that you want to add, or?
Yeah. I think that, I think the benefit of having done this for 25 years is that I know a lot of things that are missing from the trying to keep an old wooden boat or an historic boat floating is, a full-time effort for most companies, but then to actually operate and make money are, I mean, it's one of the reasons why businesses like this don't succeed typically, or are so hard to do, like Manhattan by Sail, or you'll see people with a new boat as opposed to an old boat, because there's so much more care and attention and skill required to operate older historic vessels and, and keeping things authentic, you know, we were doing, you know, Manhattan by Sail was doing that for 20+ years now, and we've been succeeding. We've had a few hiccups, you know. I think the biggest hiccup was COVID. We got through 9/11, we got through the world financial crisis, Sandy, you know, we've had other sort of stakeholder battles about who gets, you know, about the lack of docking in Lower Manhattan, you know, just access to the waterfront, and all the stakeholders anyway, so there's just been it's a struggle to do anything on the water, especially in New York City. So the idea of a nonprofit that could raise capital and focus on restoration and the history and that part of it is, we have boxes and boxes of last remains from people who have memories from the boat for the last almost 100 years that they just send us before they die. And I don't know what to do with it, except maybe we can, you know, if we had the time, if I had the time, I would want to honor everybody's life and history and love of the boat. We've had, in my short time as a steward of the Shearwater, we've had over 200, maybe 250,000 people sail with us. So, and almost all of them are New Yorkers and they're downtown, you know. We aren't really a tourist boat. It's not, you know, we have tourists also come and buy tickets, but anyway, so the idea was that there's all these different gaps, there's insurance, there's a lot of different reasons why it's hard to run an historic boat. Talk to the Lilac, talk to, like, you know, Mary Whalen. It's a challenge.
It's seasonal.
And it's seasonal. So, and there's staffing, and there's not enough captains, and et cetera, et cetera. I could go on for another, you know, week, but I could see a not-for-profit where being able to, if it were focused and had a separate, you know, a board and a, you know, and leadership that was focused solely on the kinds of issues that, one, I'm certainly able to identify, that could then provide, you know, in exchange for saving this boat that is now not operable. You know, it would have programmatic, you know, sort of premise fee, and it would have, we can do training on, well, you know, it's a pretty large boat, and we can do training, you know, on it. I've been talking to the Department of Labor for years now about doing apprenticeship programs. So there's a lot of, and all I needed was a classroom, you know, but I didn't have the time to devote to that because I was trying to keep the business going through COVID, you know. So anyway, so there's a lot of reasons why a company, a nonprofit solely focused on all that's hard about operating in the harbor could do, you know, and to sort of give it its own, you know, sort of spin-off and a, you know, give it life would be a wonderful thing to do. The Harbor Camp is something that we participated in for 11 years, I think, with Waterfront Alliance. And again, there were a lot of schools and that couldn't access, even if we were parents, we have 3 young children that have gone through the public school system, and we couldn't give away boat trips because we were for profit, and there were all these different things with the PTA, perhaps, you know, and our kids went to LMC, and we could not organize a sail because of the rules, and you know that, and so they said, oh, if there was a nonprofit, so you know, so that was another reason to have a not-for-profit, so that schools could engage and we could take kids out sailing. Once the investment in getting a boat running with insurance and all of it is so, it's all front loaded. Once you have it, it's a very modest cost to then, when you're not sailing, which is the mornings or the early afternoon, to just give the boat to the kids. And I've always wanted to do that, and it's been very challenging for 20+ years.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's the driving force of this nonprofit, I think, is that, and, you know, it's not just a nonprofit that's starting with nothing, it's starting with a close relationship with our for-profit company, that, where we can support it with, we can support the nonprofit with programming, with, you know, we could start the Harbor Camp now. I talked to, you know, and I talked to Roland from, who ran the Waterfront Alliance for many years, and he said that he got a lot of his money for, and we were taking kids out for like $10 a kid. You know, for all those years, and so, which is heavily subsidized, but, you know, but he was getting that money from the community, from the city council, he told me. Margaret was funding it, I guess, or the city council for Margaret Chen. So anyway, there are all these programs that we're hoping to be able to be a vehicle for. And that's the basic idea. So, but we'd love to just, this is very early. We want to get your input and see, you know, what you think our community could use, how best to go about it. You know, we're open to advice, I'd say, on how to maybe move this forward in the most useful way. You know, I've been on the board, and I've always loved it when people came and didn't present fait accomplis, you know, and had to provoke them sort of architect or structure to do stuff.
So yeah, Chris, what are your thoughts?
Anyone have any thoughts or questions?
So I was trying to follow your first question, which was area focus, fundraising versus activating programming to attract kids, right? I mean, I speaking top of mind for the 5 minutes we've been listening, and I'm certainly not an expert in this space, but it would seem like you'd need the asset activated in order to engage the kids, or no? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, the really unique thing about this is that the Clipper City is fully operational and is a bigger boat, frankly, you know, I don't know, twice the passenger capacity, so 3 times. So we could and plan to basically immediately have kids come on to the Clipper City. And while that is happening and there's a programmatic engine there and we're getting families involved, and getting more things involved, as we launch more of this like capital fundraising ask for, it's gonna be $2 million+ we can already be activating kids on the boat, on the Clipper City, while the Shearwater is undergoing restoration. And I think there's an opportunity if we can, you know, organize it in the right way, where, you know, how unique is it to help work on a 100-year-old boat, right? Like, if there's any way we can get the kids to the shipyard and just be like, this is how you refurbish something that is this old and this historic. So we could do both. There's just only so much time in the day. I'm like, where do we start?
I would add one thing to that, which is that with Clipper City, you know, we can do some fundraising also on the Clipper City, but would you like, I guess, you know, the Harbor Camp, we may not, you know, how do we access kids? It's not that easy to get through the bureaucracy. I mean, you know, we face this all the time. So we can start, but I was, you know, I talked to our city council member, and he was like, oh, sign up for this, but we were, you know, we didn't get there in time for the deadline for this year's funding. So, and apparently you have to have already been, you need a year's seasoning before you can qualify for a certain type of, certain line item kind of funding for, with the city council's, you know, sort of discretionary funds apparently. So there's some bureaucratic stuff to understand, elements to understand. And the season is almost here. It's a couple months away. But we have, we don't really start sailing until noon, firstly, every day. So we have from whenever AM to noon where there's never a conflict. And, and typically we could go to like 1 o'clock as well. So like we could go to 9 AM to 1 o'clock and we can do 2 sales a day for 150 days, 160 days. If we had people that wanted to come or that knew how to get on our boat.
Todd,
They know what does he.
does he?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm sorry, I'm tardy, so you may have already covered this. But how many kids would you anticipate being able to have participate in any kind of activity? I think you said they would be like refurbishing.
Two different things. So,
Okay.
good. You need safety, and so you'd have to have a pretty high, I think, adult to child, ratio. Teenagers could be, actually lifting tools and, and doing stuff. But younger kids would just be sort of seeing it and getting an informational download, and we'd have to, that's a ways off because we have to select the yard. There's a lot of steps to this, to the actual restoration of a boat like this. You have to buy the wood and you have to season it for, a number of months so that it's all the same humidity. There's any number of things to know.
So the initial idea would be to sort of get kids at least on the boat and get them to sail,
Yes, but
to get them familiar with.
absolutely,
So
Yeah.
in essence, it would be sort of tours of
access to, yes, absolutely.
seeing what could be done and then introducing them to the yard, what needs to be done, and then they could then be engaged and funneled into possibly being camp members if you got your funding straight.
I would say if I could, the word camp, I don't want it to mislead you too far field. The harbor camp, as it was developed and as it was run by the Waterfront Alliance, was really waterfront access primarily, which was getting on a boat, getting to the water's edge with ecological, eco programs on Pier 26, 225, and things of that nature, and coming sailing with us. We took over 1,000 kids every summer, sailing. And, we got them on the lines and we talked to them.
So more like workshops.
It's more just like, look, there's all this water here and you're in New York City and it's an island. And giving kids who had never been to the water's edge the ability to be on a boat and discover that and see that people actually work on the water. And my first experience with the water was, I went to PS3 and Lucy Rubin, best teacher I've ever, in my whole career, walked us down Christopher Street Pier. It was abandoned and broken and, so messed up. And somehow there was a beautiful sloop there. And some old guy with a beard and a guitar was singing songs. And we raised this rope, we pulled on this rope that was bigger than our hands. And that was my first experience of the water and of sailing. And I was in 4th grade. And that was the Clearwater of the Snooper Sloop. And that was Pete Seeger. A number of years later, I made this my life and my career. So I don't know exactly where that leads for each person, but just the awareness that we are on an island is something that I've seen really light kids up. And I had my friend used to bring her class of the terminologies, but autistic children. She was a special ed teacher, and she brought them, and then she got in all sorts of trouble and almost got fired when the school found out. And right around that time, a child had gotten out and lost and got injured. And so they shut it down, they shut down every possible program. Maybe it's still shut down, but anyway, so I used to,
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. I've had some experience, nonprofits. Tom is selling himself short. He was a very active member of the community board. He was one of the pioneers on the waterfront many years ago. My first step, incrementals, is it would be nice to get a letter of support from the youth committee. If you can give us, if Tricia would agree, and we could just agree to give a letter of support for the endeavor, and resolution, that will help. What can we do now besides talk? We can get a letter going, and you can do that. I will help and go offline, but what I can tell, it's a virtuous project. The Clipper City will be coming out of Brooklyn this year, right?
no, we'll be at Pier 17.
At Pier 17, I'm sorry. So it's in our community. I'm sorry, Pier 17, and the Shearwood is not yet cited where which yard you're gonna do the renovation in.
Right.
And season that wood.
I mean, we could even.
Yeah, I just wanna get my story straight. And, no, it's okay. So as a first step, have you spoken to the Hudson River Park about the space they have, the historic boats on? Now, the boat can't be in the water, right? It's gotta be in the yard, so that,
Once we get to work, right now, she's in the water.
yeah, but who's in the water?
The Shearwood.
It's in the water.
Yeah.
So there is space at 26 for historic boats. This is, the only thing older than me in this room is the Shearwater. But.
Shearwood is not in the room.
And then, well, yeah. But you haven't spoken to Noreen and those people yet. There's room there.
It's rough water, I don't.
It's too rough. I know. Okay, I got it. So a letter of support, you gotta you gotta put the boat someplace then out of 17, you're gonna continue to run the business to keep everybody eating. You don't eat that much. But, so that's the program plan to start. And then I would suggest that sometime in the summer or afterwards, you come back to the youth committee for an update as to what, because managing, I've turned, when my younger days, I've turned down small grants from the city council. The work on it is more than you get. But there are a number of corporations around here that you have a long history. You have a long history of all the kids that went to the camp. But the camp would take place at the South Street Seaport also.
So the idea would be that we would use the Clipper City and, for the camp.
Is there any space at Pier 17 for, classes or anything like that?
There could be, there's a, right now it's pretty under, tenanted, I would say.
Yeah, but then I know, but they're not, they're gonna be tough with you. But, I was the chair.
I don't have a space for it right now.
Right, I was the chair of the waterfront committee when they said there was gonna be a classroom at the end of that fancy pier next to the seaport. Never happened. Wouldn't be the first time. I was misled.
And the Seaport Museum is down there, and we haven't really opened discussions with them about using their space in collaboration.
So who's your landlord for the Clipper City?
It's, SEG.
Who?
Seaport Entertainment.
So Seaport.
Break off of Howard Hughes.
So they might have,
It's possible.
yeah, it's possible. So that's the first thing. If we could just agree to write a letter of support, because that'll help you with Seaport Entertainment. I gotta talk to you about them, but, if that's okay, Tricia, if that's,
We just need the information.
could you get
So
Tricia
like,
the information and copy me on it? Yeah.
so a little bit, like, we know your CV, but it's better for us to have you write it.
Yeah.
And then, who we're directing this at and what a general idea of the programming would be.
Absolutely.
And I think if we have those things, then we can write a letter, obviously, very easily in support.
And I would say, in sort of a rough timeline of what we're supporting.
Yeah.
Because I think the kids in the boat and refer, I think it all sounds good, but I think the timeline of what it would.
Again, program planning, we're Columbia University, sold 10,000 program planning games way back in the day. Take 50 kids this summer down by the South Street Seaport and do something with them on the Clipper City. And that way you'll put your feet in the water.
There you go.
Right, what Desi's talking about. And, you know, get something going this summer, report back to the community board. There's also a waterfront committee too.
And then, you know, you can also contact the schools, parent coordinators at the schools, let them know what you're up to, because they're always looking for something for kids to do in the summer. Especially, I hear a lot that there are a lot of offerings that are for the whole summer or for sessions, but there aren't things by the week that these kids can do. And a lot of families are in and out. And I hear this from a lot of them, that wouldn't it be great to have a week camp available, because there really isn't much. And I mean, Bob, you know, certainly he knows who's around in the summer.
You have to be careful with licensing and camps, the word camp. I have to get up out of Charles.
I have a,
Huh?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So, right now you have the Clipper City at Pier 17.
Yeah.
Is that the small, I don't know if it's a ship or both, in sort of the back by the, behind the waiver tree and the other?
That's the museum's, book Pioneer.
Okay, so where is that?
The Clipper City, docks at on the face of Pier 17.
Okay.
You're thinking of Pier 16.
Okay.
So Pier 17 is where the John George Fulton is.
Yes, yes.
And that's then the rooftop.
Yeah, I'm very,
Okay. So that's Pier 17, and so the Clipper City sits right there,
okay.
closest to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, are you anticipating doing anything there this spring before school closes?
Yeah, we'll be operational, May 1st. We're gonna start our regular departures for the business.
How many people can safely fit on?
100.
I mean,
I got married, I promise you. 120 people at our wedding, yeah, 115.
did you have something there on Halloween?
Yes.
I think people know.
Yeah, we just, we.
Yeah, I took my son for his 17 on Halloween. I think I even have photographs. I think I remember.
Oh, cool.
So, do you think it's safe? I mean, for what ages are you looking at?
The younger, well, the railings are yay high, so young kids, we've had our young kids on since they were born, months old. But you need to have the proper number of adults to the appropriate age.
Correct. So, I mean, would you want schools to plan class trips?
Of course, yeah.
And like Tricia said, you can contact the schools, parent coordinators, PTAs. I know that, for example, I arranged a trip for my son's class to the courthouse at 67th Street because no judges and so forth. And they all, we had 2 classes go down and they enjoyed the tour and so on and so forth. I mean, those are things that you could arrange. And then if it's going to lead to camps in the summertime, then you could spread the word. And people would know and people might be interested in being.
Precisely.
And every school has a website and usually they list the emails for parent coordinators, PTA and so on. And principally you can contact the schools, just get a list of all the schools. They don't confine yourself to CD community board 1 area. You can go all over Manhattan. Is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, the Waterfront Alliance's Harbor Camp program was citywide.
Yeah.
And we got private schools. We got all sorts of schools that were coming in groups and summer camps were coming. And, it's just, they weren't like trying to make sure it was just this one demographic. And I thought that was very nice. And, it didn't matter. every kid
I mean,
deserves to
like
get.
today we had a beautiful day, had nice weather coming, you have from, say, April to June, April, May, June, 3 months, and I'm sure you can get some, schools and classes interested in heading down. to take a look at it. Plus you have the whole seaport around there, so people might be interested in that as well, and the whole private.
All right, great. So we'll look for that from you and then we can put it together.
So just a quick insurance thing, that might be also something that you include.
Yeah.
So that it's on the table and we're aware that your insurance also covers day, night, adult, kid.
Checking the box.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everything. The website is on here, but it's been up for 2 days, so please don't expect too much, but please enter your emails on there. We want to, keep in touch.
Okay, great.
With that, and we'll get in touch about our details. We've got a business plan and everything beforehand.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Definitely keep in touch with us and as soon as we get that, we can review it in committee and get that letter out.
Thank you.
All right.
And I'll leave these here.
Thank you.
You know anyone who wants them?
Taking these things for.
We won't probably get to it till next.
It's just a basic thing that I printed out from Grokpedia.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
That's great. Can we keep this?
Wikipedia. And then they had some mistakes and I started correcting. It's mostly right.
Okay, great.
Your daughter.
All right, good.
Great. You know, it's fun, what were they in 6th and 7th?
Thank you very much for having me.
Coming.
Good luck with everything.
Done that, unless there was that.
He's gonna send
Yeah, they started to.
sort of understand it, but it's really better.
I've seen you by, seen you.
Define what their goal is.
I mean, we are.
All right, moving on to number 3.
We're figuring that out too.
When can I come?
We're in the works, we're in the works.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know you did that. So it'd be good to just know what the offerings are in general.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think people would be really, have you hooked up with like Pam Frederick and I would get to the broadsheet and the Tribeca Citizen and have them do a little story on you.
Yeah.
Because I think it could be helpful for people to really understand all the things that you're offering. Hearing that there's weddings on there, I know people are like always asking about venues,
Oh, yeah.
for gatherings here. We have so few spaces left. I think that.
Actually, one of the least expensive options.
And awesome.
I'm an officiant,
Perfect.
my wife 3 times.
Yeah.
That could be amazing.
That's Kathy Chad. That's Anna Mitch.
They sent me a this, so I don't know who's gonna.
I don't know.
That's us.
Excuse me?
We have to continue on.
We always do.
If anybody wants to chat, please step to the hall just so we can start our next presentation. So this is, we're moving on to the proposed construction of a new school at 26 Broadway. As we heard from the CEC, this has just come up at the last CEC meeting. They're proposing to open this school in September, amazingly. And it goes to the PEP in late April for a vote. So I will try and make that meeting, but I think we should, given this time frame and given that I did write the SCA today.
I am introducing.
Okay, so I was just gonna, just set you up. And I just want to let you know as you go to present that I reached out to the STA today to see if they can give us some information on how this came about. And, just a little bit more history about how this landed
Yeah,
in March to then be approved in April. So with that,
I would like to know as well, but we'd love to know. So I'll give you as much background as I can. We have a.
can you tell us your name again?
I'm Michael Wolf.
Okay,
I am the current co-PTA president of LMC Middle School.
okay,
Which is on the, we refer to it as the 26 Broadway campus. It is large building at the very end of Broadway, right by the bowl. And as it has come up earlier in this meeting, it houses 3 current DOE. I'm gonna let Ann do the actual slide.
Okay, so she'll have to let me know when to move.
Okay, yeah.
Because I thought you were, okay.
We house 3 DOE schools. There was a charter school in there as well, which I think has already moved or is in the process of moving.
Okay.
2 high schools, the Richard R. Green High School, Urban Assembly for Women, which is the high school that is closing, and then LMC. We had a SLT meeting in February. It was, I believe, right before the school break. And that's when we first found out about this. It was a presentation by I believe it's called the Office of Space and Operations. And they kind of walked us through this whole thing, and it was from the beginning presented as a done deal, that this was a complete project and that it was moving forward. And that led to some confusion because, as we've mentioned here today, there are some deadlines that must be followed to open a school next year. We immediately reached out to the CEC and we started asking questions, and that's how led to the CEC meeting where the superintendent presented. As a community, and this is what Ann's presentation is going to talk on, but I'll just introduce it by saying, as a community, our 2 schools are connected. They occupy the 2 floors below LMC. LMC is on the 6th and 7th floor of the building. The Urban Assembly Women's High School is on the 4th and 5th. But we share spaces. We've always shared space. Now, some of that is by design. That is, by DOE protocol. They have assigned some spaces on our floors to the high school, and then we use some of their classrooms, and that is by agreement. The principals talked and said, "Yeah, we have some classrooms you can use." So, and those classrooms are one of our biggest issues going forward, is making sure. And also, as mentioned earlier in this meeting, because of mandates for space, for the class size, those spaces are important to us.
Is that multi-purpose space on the ground floor still used by both of you?
There's a multi-purpose space on the 6th floor of LMC that is used by the high school. If that's what you're referring to.
No, but I didn't.
There's a gym as well.
So the gym is on the ground floor.
We're gonna cover the gym. I'll
Okay,
let
good.
Dan cover the gym in the presentation, because I know, she has some information on that.
Okay, good. It would be good to know what you share.
There are 2 rooms in LMC that are assigned to the high school.
Why would that be?
A lack of space otherwise. The Urban Assembly, from my understanding, does not have access to the gym, which is a point we're going to get to, is now we have a new school that would want access to the gym. So they use our multi-purpose room for, I think, gym classes, exercise. They also, for some reason, LMC, we have a dance floor on both the 6th and 7th. And we generally, I think 99% of the time, use the dance floor on the 7th floor, and the high school uses the room on the 6th floor.
Is there a floor plan that's going to be in part of this presentation?
I'm afraid I don't think we have a floor plan.
I think it'd be helpful to see one.
Thank you. All right,
Yeah.
Follow up.
It would be.
Yeah, but the larger concept, which all of this is to say, is that all of this happens before coming to us, even though our spaces are intertwined. And there are other parts of our proposal. Yes, there's the issue of expansion. There is a whole discussion about the AI, but the crux of this is that neither the staff nor the families involved in LMC, or even, to be honest, colloquially, I heard that we knew about this change before the people at the Urban Assembly High School did. So there's been, just a lack of communication in a situation where our spaces are already entwined. And so we feel as a community that we should have a voice in what happens.
Oh, for sure.
So with that's my preamble. And I'm happy to answer questions now, but I'd love to turn it over to Anne, who's going to give the online presentation.
I want to
Sorry.
add, I wanted to add one
Maybe
thing to sorry, I just want to add one thing to what Michael was saying, which is not only were the most immediately impacted co-located schools not consulted, but also the local community. There was not a lot of discussion with other local schools that local parents about what they would like to see, what we need in the district. So that's another piece that was really neglected.
Well, we
Sorry.
also have a high school application process that starts like last September. So I don't understand how, I mean, it's not even compliant that they announce a school now and open in September.
Yeah.
You need a year for the principal. You need, that has to come before a whole committee. Then you have to go into the choice system and the selection system. So I actually don't understand what they're thinking there.
That was a confusing point that came out of the CEC meeting, is that this is proposed as a screen school, but they want to open it without a screen admission for this year. Obviously, because it would be impossible otherwise. So
Well, the only way.
elements of their proposal were very confusing.
Only because I'm not sure if it's gonna be covered here. I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure I understand the summary you provided. So the legacy footprint has consisted of a charter school, 2 high schools, and LMC.
Yeah.
Current state is the charter school, we believe, has moved out.
Mhm.
And there is a plan to create a new high school focused on AI that will take up the charter school spaces, that will take up which,
Just the space of Urban Assembly High School,
which will be moving out,
which is closing.
which is closing.
It's closing at the end of this.
So
Okay.
2 schools are closing there and the high school's going into one of them, Urban Assembly, which is the larger of the 2.
Yes.
So it will be a footprint that ultimately, if the plan were to proceed, will go from 4 schools to 3.
It will
Richard
remain-
Green, the new high school. like
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I would say remain 3, because I believe, like I said, I believe the charter school is.
But I meant legacy,
Yeah.
meaning what had been
Right.
there. And the point is, LMC needs room to expand to accommodate demand, accommodate, is that what we're really talking about?
They're asking to become a 6 to 12, which I wasn't aware of, but that's what the ask was by email earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
LMC
That's LMC.
Got it, I missed that
So,
part.
sorry, should have made that part of my preamble, yes. Well, that is part of the presentation.
Okay, so fine.
I would like, my preamble is just to say,
Got it.
whatever happens in this space, the community, the families, the people who live downtown, no one had a voice in it.
Yeah.
And that is number one.
Yeah.
There's also the other issues, which is what is gonna happen to that space. That's what ends in the
Got it.
presentation.
Thank you.
So.
And I'll just point
Yeah,
out that,
I didn't want to get too deep in the.
No, I
weeds.
understand. Got
But,
it.
but I think to me, as PTA president, from my point of view, as representing the families involved in this, that is the number one issue.
100%.
Is that the community, the voices were not heard, there was no charrette to kind of talk about what ideas people have or what the community wants. Something was just kind of imposed.
and historically, I'll just mention quickly,
Yeah.
the same exact thing happened
Yeah.
with Richard
Yeah.
Green and Urban Assembly. I was here when those things were placed in that building and there was no discussion about them. They were placed without request. They insisted that a non-screen school was needed in our district without doing any metrics or any feedback at all. And so going into this, we do have that look back to go to the city with.
But I will say, my oldest child is a high school senior, and so
Mhm.
having now been in the system for 13 years, I would like to say that what I have heard from the DOE during my time as a parent is to change from that point of view, which is a top-down, we mandate what happened, to a situation where the imprint of asking for community voice and support has always been created, but I don't feel it's being implemented in this situation.
It hasn't been implemented in the 18 years I've been here. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say.
Right, but
Is that-
they present the notion that that is what they're moving toward.
And in our resolution, there will be a look back to the history, which will dictate that it has never happened. And I think, and the reason I say this is because it was extremely contentious placements, both of them. And as you can see, the space sharing that was required with urban assembly was a really delicate process that, because of a lack of planning, took them forever to work out. And I still don't even have all the details of it.
Right.
I'm learning them from
The
you,
final
so.
point, which I do want to get to Ann. The final point, which I did not bring up, which I should share for you, because that is a school for women, while they occupy our space, there's a slightly different dynamic than if it was a co-ed high
Right.
school. You know, boys, we don't have boys from the ages of 14 to 18, just wandering the halls of Allen State.
Right.
Now, there could be, there, and I believe if Principal Shannon was here, she would tell you, there have been incidents of women misbehaving on the LMC floors, you know, hiding out from their high school. That's another issue, but.
Right, and but
the
they
point is
share.
that this is one of the changes being fostered upon us, is that now we will have a co-ed from a different high school, just being able to use our space. So,
Well, not if we can.
right, so I'd like
All
to
right.
move on to Ann, because she has she has the beautiful slides and a lot more data and a lot for you guys to digest, so. And unless there's anything else, I'd like to turn it over to Ann. Ann, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Jen and I are gonna share the presentation. We're gonna jump back and forth. Basically, we're gonna go. Jennifer Ansley is also here.
Jennifer Ansley is an SLT member. This slideshow was put together with another SLT member named Sarah Calderon, who's not available tonight. And Ann has been on their committee working on this issue with them.
Okay, so why are we here? Let's start with this. So NYC Public Schools have proposed the closure, and as we've talked about, the closure of Urban Assembly School of Business for Young Women, which is at 63% utilization, which is basically about the threshold where they have a tendency to, the DOE has a tendency to close schools. And they're proposing opening a screened 9 to 12 school focused on AI. That's called the Next Generation Technology School. The initial information that's been put out about the school has been very focused on AI. More recently, it seems like some of the things online have been changed to make that less of a highlight, because I think there's been a lot of discussion about AI and concerns about not thinking through its usage. LMC's SLT and community oppose this proposal for a number of reasons, many of which Michael already mentioned. The largest one, I would say, is the lack of community engagement. The February 4th announcement, it was not an engagement. It was an announcement, and a 15-minute announcement where high school superintendent Beetleman did not attend. It was school planning. They basically showed up, said, this is happening, and do you have questions? The new school application portal is opening March 19th, prior to the approval of this school by the PEP, which is supposed to happen before they start taking applications. Parents voiced concerns at the February 25th CEC meeting, which is something the CEC members referenced before. No data was presented to show the community where the need or want was for this particular model of high school. The educational impact statement, which was submitted with the proposal, does not accurately reflect the actual state of the usage of the school. I have been told that the superintendent Beetleman did not actually do a walkthrough of the school. I think is not really aware of how the spaces are currently used or how it would impact LMC. Parents' voices and concerns and CEC questions, the parents voiced concerns, and the CEC questioned the chancellor at his town hall on March 5th. Basically, LMC as an alternative would like to propose expanding to a 6 to 12. And here are some of the reasons that these are some of the major bulleted reasons for why we oppose this particular proposal. Issues of co-location, which we'll talk about a little bit further. The 9 to 12 structure versus 6 to 12 or a K through 12, and concerns about AI and screening that all have drawbacks or at least concerns in this situation. Can you advance to the next slide? Okay, so here's a little bit of information about District 2. It's by far Manhattan's largest district for high school enrollment. There are 71 schools. You can see that 32,480, more than 50% of the borough's student population is attending high schools within the District 2 zone. 53% of those are screened. You can see 79% are consortium. You can see basically a lot of the numbers reflect either the percentage of Manhattan, the schools that are in District 2, until you get to 6 to 12s or K to 12s, where it's only 29% of the schools that are in Manhattan that are 6 to 12 or K to 12 are in District 2. Can you advance to the next slide?
She wants to advance to the next slide.
Go ahead. Sorry. It was just press the dash.
Okay.
Okay, here's a little information about the high school capacity. You can see there's a lot of high schools throughout the city are under enrolled, particularly in District 2. So we have about 8,000 unused high school seats, and yet we're talking about opening another high school in the district, which is an interesting question that we haven't heard any answers on why that's being proposed. In fact, the superintendent, Beetleman, the high school superintendent discussed wanting to open a new high school each year for the next 4 years or 5 years. I can't remember exactly what he said at the CEC meeting. And there was some questions were asked about why that would be when we have so many excess seats already. Can you advance to the next? Thank you. Okay, Jen's going to take over for a minute.
Hi. Okay, so what do parents want? Can you advance to the next slide, please? So one thing we explored is why families are choosing private schools or leaving New York City for schooling. In New York City, when families are asked about why they left New York City public schools, they said that they prioritized schools that felt supportive and welcoming. They focused on school leader quality. Families who went to private school wanted more rigorous education. They also said that they were scared their child was not safe in school. They wanted access to school sports. And they also felt the DOE did not adequately address disabilities. Every one of these factors listed above is a strength of LMC, as evidenced by the DOE survey results each year. Please go to the next slide. So this is a chart with the demand of 6 through 12 schools versus 6 through 8. As you could see, the top 6 schools, 7 schools are all 6 through 12 schools. So for a school like ICE, you literally have almost 20 applications per seat. And then for another school, which again, a very popular sought after school, Salk, which is a middle school just as 6 through 8, you have only 9 applications per seat. So it really demonstrates a demand for 6 through 12 schools. If you can go to the next slide, that would be great.
I just want to add one little detail, which is that Quest, which stands out quite a bit, is quite a niche school. So if you think about the schools in the district, most of these have a specialization, but generally are like a broad sort of like liberal arts version of a middle school and high school. Quest is a school based on games, like learning through games, which is I'm not saying it's a bad model. I'm just saying it's a very niche thing. And I think that's important to take into account when you're thinking about why their applicant numbers would be lower. Sorry. Thanks,
Anne. Could we get the next one? Great. Advantages for 6 through 12 families. The NYC PS policy states that continuing students who attend a K through 8 or a K through 12 school have a guaranteed match to the school if they listed on their application and are not matched to a higher choice. They are considered first for any open seats. A genuine and substantial advantage, a family that gets their child into a 6 through 12 school at 6th grade effectively locks in a high school seat. They only need to survive one competitive admissions process instead of two, and the second, for high school, is guaranteed if they want to stay. No SHSAT unless they choose, no scramble over winter break in 8th grade, no risk of being unmatched. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. Okay, so advantages of 6 to 12 student in terms of student achievement. Double transitions, so from elementary to middle school and then to high school, increase achievement loss and dropout rates. Shared middle and high school buildings expand access to specialized teachers and advanced courses. It's kind of like one of those things where you come in and you say, why is there only 2 arts? Because it's a small school, we can't afford to have more programming. More grade levels per building boosts achievement and behavior across all SES levels. Students perform better in high school alongside familiar middle grades classmates, and buffering 9th grade supports adolescents' social, emotional, and cognitive growth. Basically, it's the stuff that we think about when we're thinking about like learning loss over the summer. The learning loss when you're going into another school is just magnified. There aren't the adults in the building that know who you are. You don't have the peers set up. There's all the anxiety, in addition to the factor of having to take basically a year dealing with grades and applications that are taken away from education. Next slide, please. Okay, so Jen, do you want to cover co-locations or am I covering this one? You're doing this, right?
Yep, that's great. Disadvantages of co-location at 26 Broadway. LMC has no gym, yard, or recess space for place. We have a shared gym in the co-located school, which means that 6th graders do not get access to the gym and 7th graders only get it once a week. Children with IEPs, of which LMC has many, often need space for movement. After school gym use is also limited, hurts LMC's sports offerings, limiting it to only 1 to 2 days a week. We also share the entrance with the Urban Assembly School, and elevators already break down regularly, leading to tardiness, and emergency evacuations can become dangerous. Current school, as Michael stated before, is single gender. New school will be co-ed, and middle school children will be in the same spaces as these youth. LMC shares a nurse with Urban Assembly now as well. Next slide, please. Disadvantages of co-location model. The co-location can lead to conflicts over space, resources, and scheduling, often creating structural distrust between the school communities. Differences in school funding, demographics, and special education services sometimes leads to tension and students noticing disparities in resources and facilities. Next slide, please.
Okay, so now we'd like to talk a little bit about AI and some of the concerns about AI and opening an AI school. Can you advance to the next slide? Okay, the first part is that the STEM school model doesn't reliably deliver on its promises. The NYC STEM schools' apparent advantages disappear once you think about demographics and prior test scores, suggesting selective intake, not necessarily school quality, drives results. These schools also depend on well-trained math, science, and special education teachers, which are among the most critical shortages areas of teachers in New York City. AI is disrupting the very careers STEM schools are designed to feed. Talking about the tech jobs narrative is overstated. Computer science graduates face 6.1 unemployment, which is seventh amongst all majors. Entry-level software job postings have fallen 71% since 2022. Trying to predict the future of tech jobs is a little bit hard. I think back to the times where everybody was told to do programming and you'll have a job for life. Clearly not playing out that way. AI erodes critical thinking, especially in young people. AI poses risks to social emotional development and mental health. And there are a ton of studies that are already beginning to show this, even though AI is really just starting to permeate. I think the main focus here is that we're saying this needs to be really well thought out before we start opening schools that are focused on AI. Next slide, please.
Why LMC as a 6 through 12? In summary, LMC should expand because District 2 parents do not need an untested, screened, specialized, co-located AI school. What parents really want is real community engagement, which we haven't gotten thus far, transparent discussion about new schools in our community, data that outlines choices being made for our children, a school that cares about all learners, a school they can trust, a better researched educational model, and a 6 through 12 school, better for students academically and socially, and keeps more families in our public school system. Next slide, please.
I think the next slide is actually where the data sources are. I just want to add one other plug for this, which is that Shanna Douglas, who is our administration, is one of the best respected administrators that I've ever encountered. I really, I'm a teacher and educator. I've worked with many principals. I haven't met many where every parent in the school really basically feels like a tremendous amount of respect for them. She's also one of the very few Black school leaders in the district. And I think that I think that's something to be taken into consideration. I think she's been an incredible, steady leader in the district. And I think that draws the families. Questions?
Lots.
Andrew?
I'll let someone else go. I do have quite a few, so I don't want to monopolize.
Bob?
I just want to congratulate you for an excellent presentation. I want to ditto co-location reservations. I don't know much about AI. I don't want to. But on co-location, we run, in your list, we run the after-school programs in all those schools. And co-location with 2 schools is a headache. And it requires the principals and staff and everybody to get together. So yes, I don't know why they would do this to the school on such short notice. I don't know who, is there a point person on this? That's my first question. Who's the point person on this for making this decision?
Gary Beedelman, who is the superintendent of high schools, has been spearheading this project.
Thank you. And I don't know if there's any funding behind it. And then I want to just say something that you are right about Shanna and principal. And I want to put this on the agenda in a couple of months when I get my talking points better. But I think the DOE historically has not been kind to people of color. And it started in Ocean Hill, Brownsville in the 1970s and 60s, and it continues to this day. My staff is ununionized, and they use, but mostly people of diverse population. And I think that's very important to realize across the board. And I just want to congratulate you on saying that.
All right, Andrew.
Why don't you go ahead? I think you
You have
No, I'm
questions?
good. No, listening.
So, thank you for this. I comment also, great presentation, although there are elements of it I'm trying to reconcile. So bear with me here for a second. So in the first part of the presentation, you make a point, if I understood it correctly, that our high schools across District 2 are currently underutilized by about 25%.
That is the data that we found.
Got it. So you're making a case that we don't need more high school seats. Yet there's an ask to expand LMC to become a 6 through 12, which means adding high school. Is the basis for that saying, if we're going to put a high school in this location, although we've said we're not sure we need it, we'd rather it be done through expanding LMC from a 6 to a 12 program?
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Part of it is that, and part of it is that there is there is not an under presence of, sorry, my words are not coming out right now, but there are not very many 6 to 12s. And that's actually different than a high school. It's not quite a high school. A 6 to 12 is a very different thing. It's kind of looking at an elementary school from kindergarten through fifth grade. I think that some of the students that are choosing to go to private school, the idea is that you might retain some of those. Like we know families that I think would have stuck with LMC that ended up not getting a seat that they wanted and went to private school. That's obviously anecdotal, but there is a draw to a 6 to 12 that is different than specifically to a public high school.
I would
And
reference you to, at the, just, sorry, 1 second, Deborah. At the page in the slides that talks about the number of applicants per seat for the 6 to 12 schools versus the applicant per seat for the other 6 through 8.
Right.
And I think that is where I see your point that there is some incongruity there, but if you look at where the people who are remaining, because we're also talking about a situation where we are in a decline, where people are remaining, they are putting their focus on a 6 to 12 school. And you could ask yourself, and we don't have solid numbers about this, but are the people who are applying to 6 through 12 schools and not getting into them, then making the choice to leave the system?
Right. And so all of that is relevant. I'm thinking about how I engaged with your presentation. And I got hung up on the first part of it. You're saying we don't need more high school seats, yet you're asking for expansion to add high school classes. I'm wondering if there's a way to reconfigure that message so that there's more emphasis on the 6 through 12 piece. Maybe it was just me in terms of how I heard it, but that was one comment.
Can I just make I'm sorry, can I just make one more comment about that? So I think that page that we discussed, how all of the 6 through 12s are, have so many applications, kind of address that. Like Anne was saying, it's a little bit different than high school. And then I think the other question that we have, which we really don't have an answer for, is how is this chosen? How is a technical, like science, computer, AI school chosen? Like what data had Superintendent Beelman choose that? Today, he spoke at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, to discuss kind of AI, and he's planning on opening this high school again before the PEP approval, which I kind of feel like is in reverse. But there isn't a lot of information, and we've asked for a lot of information, where the data is coming from that informs the decision for this high school to be chosen. And I think that's something that we have sought and have not received yet in any form.
I also want to add one more piece, which is an answer specifically to that question, which is I had the same issue looking at it, thinking if we have all these extra high school seats, why are we trying to add more high school seats? My answer would be that I think that it comes into that slide where it's talking about why families are leaving. So if we're thinking about why we're not competing with another high school as much as the families that are thinking like, I don't want to send my kids through this like rat race of like a high school application process. They want to go to stay in and they might choose to stay in the public schools rather than going to the private schools, rather than leaving New York City. That data point was from a survey that was done by the DOE on why families were leaving. And that was a survey of 1,600 families. We do have declining enrollment. So I think it's thinking about, yes, we're talking about adding more high school seats, but are those high school seats for students that wouldn't necessarily stay in the New York City public schools otherwise?
Got it. And then just quickly, and apologies if I missed this. So Richard Green is staying, correct?
Richard Green is staying.
Is that considered co-location, that Richard Green's staying in the school and LMC in whatever form is? I got lost on the co-location point because my understanding is Richard Green's not going anywhere.
So there, I can answer that. That Richard Green enters at 26 Broadway. They don't touch them. They have a different elevator bank.
Got it. So it's a different type of co-location.
Correct. So it's that, 26 Broadway is a DOE complex, right? So it's structured as an educational complex. But and this is actually could be a point in the resolution, is that they felt very strongly that the high school should never butt up against the middle school kids. And so they had them access the school through 26 Broadway, and they had LMC access their school at 81 New. So when you have that set up, that is how they actually talked people into locating Richard Green, which, by the way, was just sitting in an elementary school on the Upper East Side. And we had 18-year-olds using a toilet made for a 4-year-old, which was why the emergency, right? So when Urban Assembly came, that's when the controversial part came, because they wanted Urban Assembly to share the LMC elevator bank. And we pushed back, and your point about gender actually did come into play then. And that made it so that, that was an argument of theirs. So it'd be very easy to reflect back on that when framing this out for this, that would be considered a co-location.
There's another issue of co-location that is the gym. Richard Green and LMC use the gym, Urban Assembly does not. So that is something that needs to be discussed. Will this new school utilize the gym, which, as we pointed out in our presentation, we already only have partial use.
Got it.
And we have no outdoor space. Occasionally on nice days at the beginning of the year, we go to Battery Park, but that is a time issue of getting the kids out of the building and over to Battery Park.
Got it. And then last question, then I promise I'm done.
Yeah.
As a means of making your proposal more attractive, have you given thought to addressing or somehow incorporating AI into the high school program that you're seeking?
I think if a serious proposal to expand LMC from a 6 through 8 to a 6 through 12, I think that would open the door to all sorts of discussions about what does that mean? What does that mean evolving from the middle school into the high school? Would it be the same program kind of extruded all the way through 12th grade, or would there be a switch, kind of change? For example, at the Clinton School, the high school is an IB, International Baccalaureate. The middle school does not involve itself in the International Baccalaureate. Their curriculum is geared towards the kids attending the IB when they're in high school, but they're two different curriculum programs. So I think, in that discussion, anything would be on the table.
Well, what's interesting is that IB program isn't imperative. In other words, it's something some students engage in and some don't.
Right.
And there could be an argument, if you guys are comfortable with it, and test driving AI programming within a high school construct, instead of jumping out of the gate with technology that's still in formation and dedicating an entire high school to that one kind of programming. I find that to be actually really alarming that they would come out of the gate with this already.
That's what I'm.
So, Desi?
Yeah. I'm gonna try not to go on a rant here, but I will say that federally, we have an administration who is looking to dismantle the Department of Education. They're not doing anything to uphold or invest in any of the tenets of education that would improve or create robust, equitable education for students. But if you look at who is sitting at the table, it's nothing but tech giants who are foaming at the mouth with artificial intelligence. Even the Secretary of Education, who I'm going to be judicious here, is not looking to support education and doesn't even know what AI is and calls it A1, speaks nothing but AI, right? And so I say follow the money, because we have not even looked at the moral or environmental effects of AI, which we could have a whole dissertation on. But it makes sense to me that we should follow the money and see where this is going, to see why we would ram this school into existence without going through the proper channels and then mount a whole program surrounding AI that has not even been fully fleshed out, without even looking at how to incorporate it into a STEM program.
Can I add something to that? Can I add something to comment on what you're saying? Which is that listed in the corporate partners for this proposal, it's Google, and the superintendent Beetleman is actually a Google fellow, and the corporate partners listed. I'm just going to mention that one of the CEC members, Gavin Healy, commented. He said, "Is there a single corporate partner that you have that is not in the Epstein files?" I mean, like, really, the people that are being partnered for this are an interesting bunch.
Right.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
I would like to follow up on you. So one of the, what we believe one of the strengths of LMC is our work with kids with IEPs. And in that, when we talked about the kind of last year, having kids stay at LMC who have had a staff that is focusing on their IEPs, and then that continues to transition in the same space through high school, we believe would benefit these kids. And so it kind of supporting your thing is who is being served. That right now, I think we're serving the kids who need to be served. And we'd like to continue serving them. Going back to your point, is that yes, maybe we have too many high schools, but in a high school at LMC, I believe would achieve, which is possibly their goal, is to fully utilize that space. Because families would gravitate to a 6 to 12 school. And families who find the support from the school for their kid with an IEP at their middle school level are happy to stay.
I want to say that's a huge point that I don't see the presentation that to me is a resolution point. Because, and I think it's a sustainable one in that, I had a child with an IEP at LMC, and that transition to high school was extremely challenging. In fact, she changed high schools after 9th grade. And I think that, I hear this from a lot of parents at LMC. Kelly McGuire was the founding principal of that school, and he was deeply passionate about teaching to 4 levels of learners. And he was one of the most successful principals in my tenure with my kids in elementary school, I think, with that model. It was fascinating how he did it. And I think Shanna, who was there at the time as an educator, was a witness to how, it all started. She was a really natural choice to continue on. And I think she's done a brilliant job of doing exactly that thing. And I think that can be called to the DOE's attention, because I think that's one of your most winning points. Because the transition from middle school to high school can be very, very challenging for kids with special needs. And especially given the new administration and the new admissions process, it's very challenging. Finding a fit there for IEP students is much harder because the schools don't handle it the same way. There's like 1 or 2 that have vibrant enough programming.
You have 2 schools that fully support the IEP kids, but they support them in different ways. So the transition is rough. And there, again, is that.
Correct.
Sorry, Jennifer.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I feel like I absolutely agree with you about both Kelly and Shanna in terms of they've been able to do a lot of things that other principals of middle schools have not, which is in the new way that that middle school selection is, they've been able to meet different children where they're at, whether it's IEP kids, my son has an IEP, or whether it's kids that we're sending to specialized high schools. Sometimes it's both. And she is able to meet these kids, and the school is able to serve all of our children and give them what they need. And so when we're talking about a successful middle school like that, aren't we a candidate for growing into a 6x12 with the established reputation that the school and the administration has, rather than something that seems kind of questionable in theory, and we kind of don't understand where the idea came from, and is very controversial. And when we're comparing these 2 choices, it seems like, one makes a lot more sense than the other.
Can I add one more plug, which is that when you go, I've spent a lot of time looking at demographic data because I've done a lot of work thinking about how we can desegregate New York City schools, which are incredibly segregated. LMC is one of the very rare schools that is actually, their demographic is actually completely reflective of what the District 2 demographic it is. If you go to look at who, in terms of numbers of students with IEPs, numbers of students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, the number of students that are in each racial category, in every way, LMC is really reflective of the district. And that's been a choice. Like, there have been things that have been done that have made it that way. It doesn't just happen. And so I again, like, this is like a school that I think should be top of the list for thinking about how do you replicate on this? How do you like expand this? And again, I point back at those school survey results, take a look at them.
Right. Martin.
Yes, I've been waiting to say something. As a parent of a rising middle schooler applying for, and we did list LMC as one of our top Harvard choices. I would say.
Waiting, are you in the waiting zone?
I don't know yet. We don't know until April.
Right, that's what I mean. You're in
Yeah.
that limbo. I've blessed you there.
Yeah.
It's a hard, long wait.
That's exactly right. And I would say there is a demand for middle school that would go 6 to 12. It just makes the process so much more definitive, much easier. You go through it once, if you like the school, and you're there and you're set, and you don't have to go through it a second time. And I don't know if it does impact people going private or moving out of the city, both of those at the high school age level, but those are big choices that involve a lot of different factors and economics and so forth. But, you know, giving people what they want and what they're asking for is a very significant thing. So, you know, people don't have
You have to be strategic because that isn't necessarily the goal of the DOE. Okay, so.
Speaking to this room, there is not a 6 to 12 school downtown. So what would happen if you had a 6 to 12 LMC?
I mean,
is
well,
that
Clinton's
family-
close to downtown, but that's.
Well, yes, but families from the lower Manhattan, the Battery Park, Peck Slip, all the schools down here would have the chance to have their kids continue to neighborhood school through 12th grade. Some of those kids are looking and taking spots at Clinton and School of the Future, the schools in, I don't know, lower Midtown or upper downtown, whatever you want to call it. And beyond. So, you know, the effect of it would not only just benefit you directly if you wanted to keep your kids in a local school, in a neighborhood school through 12th grade, which is a very.
Yeah, I mean, that's a point I think worth putting in.
But then the ripple effect is that then some of those seats open up to more people in the Union Square, Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea area, you know, going all the way up through District 2 is that kids from down here aren't riding the bus or the train up to take those spots because they have what they need here.
Correct. So I think that's one of the points that I think is worth fighting. And I think the presentation's fantastic. My recommendation would be there's too many branches on it to incorporate all those things in a resolution. And so given my experience with the DOE, who doesn't care if people leave the city, that should never be an argument with them, just so we all know this. I think that the overreaching points for the resolution would be all your great findings back on this page 2. Why are we here? So you've got your February 4th announcement, you've got new schools application portal opening March 19th prior to the PEP approval. You know, all of those points are very well taken, and most of them I think could form great whereases. And then I think we should keep it very simple in terms of focusing on the fact that, you know, there was no outreach once again, reminding them of how Urban Assembly came to be in that space, single gender school. You know, the same thing happened where it wasn't planned in advance. It's already a challenge co-locating. They figured it out with this particular demographic. It is not a fit for other demographics to co-locate in the same way. I would recommend that being one of your points. I think it is important. I think sharing that elevator in addition to the women, and by the way, Urban Assembly was a very small school, it was under enrolled. There's no guarantee that this school will be under enrolled. So if you're looking at 60% now and you're having a challenge with the numbers and it's all girls, Imagine 110%, which is the average at high schools right now, and having the boys. I think you're looking at a completely different situation. And I might also add, and I think it could be useful to list, is that those elevators are fragile at best. And they have just turned down a request to redo them. And we have already had many situations where they're opening between floors, they are breaking all of the time. And we've even had situations where LMC students have to walk across to 26 Broadway and use the back elevators that the Richard Green students do, which they themselves said was not a good idea. So we might like pick out that as one of the whereas. And then I'd recommend just bringing it back in, like talk about, I do think your data for 6 to 12 choice is a really relevant thing to list. I do think they care what parents want. I do think they care about IEP transitions. They have had a really hard time, I do know this, meeting IEP requirements in high school students to the point where the DOE is spending millions of dollars sending public school middle schoolers to private school specialty schools like Stephen Gaynor, Mary McDowell, Winston Churchill. Those schools are $85,000, $90,000 a year, and the DOE is required to reimburse parents who go there because of the failure of support services in the high schools. So might also include, something about that. And then.
At what rate do they have to reimburse them?
What's that?
At what rate do they have to?
100%.
Full tuition.
Most of them are reimbursed at 95, but 100% is it's costing them a lot of money, and they've run the numbers. And because it's so completely difficult to navigate the legal system, and because you have to pay the school first and get reimbursed, it shuts out a lot of families. It's not an equitable process at all.
I would like a little anecdotal there, which is I know 2 families that sent their kids to LMC, decided to roll their dice on public school, but planned on suing and ended up not because they felt like their kids' needs were met.
In high school?
No, I'm talking about middle school. Parents that thought about suing decided that because they thought they'd make it through elementary, thought they would try middle school, but didn't think it would work, ended up staying in the public system because their kids' needs were met at LMC.
Well, that's great. I mean, do you have, what's the data look like then? It's just a couple of families you could mention? I mean, we could anecdotally include that, I mean, they do have a reputation for being an excellent school for IEP kids.
I think that's the survey results. That's the data there is the survey results on how students' needs are met with IEPs.
Okay. Stacey.
I was just gonna say, I agree with you on everything on this page. I think it's really strong. The one thing I would maybe include in the resolution, and if we could get this data, is how in the educational impact statement, which the PEP was required to submit, I assume it's somewhere.
Yeah, I have it on my phone and I'm gonna get it to you.
Yeah, we should see that. But I assume they talk about the capacity for students at the 26 Broadway campus. And are they gonna be able to meet the reduced class size mandates with this new school coming in? And I mean, I already know at LMC, they've had to designate some art rooms as classrooms so that they could meet the reduced class size. They shouldn't have to do that. And I think that could be a hard data point that could be included in this to make the case.
In the February 4th presentation, they said that they saw no issue. And there were a lot of skeptical questions. They held to that line, but.
The educational impact, it's incorrect. There are bits of it that are definitely incorrect. There were things about the impact on LMC, and it's they were talking about no impact. It's true that in terms of if you used every room as a classroom and didn't have an art room and and had science and art teachers or whatever teachers walking around with carts, yes, we could meet the class size mandate in our current space. But the sacrifice
and everything. Yeah, it would require some drastic changes to how the school functions.
At this point.
And well, their point would be that it would not be for several years because the school would build, high school would build year by year. So, next year, if they were to field a ninth grade class, it probably wouldn't be that much bigger than Urban Assembly is at the moment.
Correct.
But then it
But the
doubles.
impact report doesn't say that. They said that in their meeting with SLT.
Right.
But the
Okay.
educational impact statement says that we will immediately lose that space. So they, in other words, on paper, it says we will lose the space, even if they're
You will
like
lose what space?
Extra classroom.
the
So
space that we're
we-
currently on the space on the so it's the fourth and fifth floor are the school that is closing, and we're on the 6th and 7th. There is a part of the 5th floor that we are currently using that we will lose.
I just think the more data we can bring in, the hard data that like you are asking us to meet this regulation on one side, but also asking us to co-locate a school here, that makes that impossible.
Correct. And what is the data now on your class size at the moment? Do you have any? You're not compliant. I do know
We're
that.
not compliant, but we're,
I think it's partly.
I wanted Jennifer, do you remember what the, I feel like we were something in the 70 to 80% compliant.
That's what I thought.
Jennifer,
but
you're
that's good.
muted.
You're not 100%.
Muted.
Jennifer was at an SLT meeting where we went through this, we have to submit a
Yeah,
yearly-
so I'm sorry, I could speak on this. I'm the head of the SLT, and we were 80% compliant, trying to meet. This is before we heard of any of this. We had an entire meeting of ways that we were going to kind of work with different rooms. There were some breakout rooms that we used, and how can we comply to get to 100%. And then this came up. And so there's kind of was some right off the bat, promises that, oh, well, it's going to be fine for next year, because again, what Michael was saying, they're just bringing forth a freshman class. And so really in 4 years is when we'll be at capacity. But like you were saying, I mean, capacity is very different and a lot more people than what we've been dealing with for the last several years with Urban Assembly. And so
I don't
when
even
we
know
brought
why
that up,
it's a conversation for them to be talking about what it's like next year. Once you've approved the school's growing into the space.
Yeah.
Like it regardless,
Exactly.
unless it's a temporary placement,
Yeah.
which it doesn't sound like it is.
No.
Then we should treat it like a permanent placement in addressing it in a resolution. Because 1 year.
and
it
the
doesn't
school is
matter.
meant to be 500 people. So that's what they said, 4 to 5.
Their school, the new school. That was my next
The new
question.
school.
4 to 6, Jen.
4 to 6, sorry.
400 to 600 is supposed to be the population.
Okay, and Urban Assembly is what?
83.
Less than 100 now.
Right, I think Urban Assembly's max could be, the number 380 stays in my head, but it's somewhere in that range.
I have a question. How come they don't use the gym? You said they don't. use
They
the
do
gym?
yoga.
Urban Assembly doesn't use the gym.
I think it's
They do
accessible.
yoga in the dance room in one
Yeah,
of
they
our
do
dance
yoga.
And that is there. I think because with the 2 schools already, the gym is already at capacity. Like we said, number 4, 6th graders don't get the gym. 7th graders get it like once a week.
Once a
every
week.
Yeah. And in fact, and after school as well. We have two schools trying to field volleyball, basketball teams of co-educational. Because Richard R. Green is co-education. I mean, it's co-sex. In the same space, and there's only.
So they use a dance room. They use a dance studio.
They use a dance studio which is on one of the LMC floors.
All girls school.
Gotcha. I'm just wondering how they get there.
Well, that's part of the issue, which maybe we didn't fully explain this. So the high school students, they just come up to our space. Because they're high school students. They are not led around by a teacher the way younger children are. They're told, when you leave, you're done here, go up there. And as high school students,
They have free reign.
yeah, they have free reign. My 17-year-old goes to a high school that is adjacent to a college campus, and some of their classes are held there. And they just walk out the door, they cross the street, and they enter the college campus because they are expected to do that. Now, when LMC uses the classrooms on the 4th floor, a teacher, an adult brings them down. We don't allow the middle schoolers to just wander into a different space without being.
Well, mostly because there's high school students. I think it's illegal. Yeah.
So just to clarify, just so everyone here understands, and I tried to explain this in the beginning, but that their use of our spaces is by operational design of the building. Our use of their classroom is a handshake agreement between.
Understood.
Which is why we're now asking to maintain that space, because we've expanded into the space. We are trying to deal with the new mandates from the state.
Right,
And,
so
um,
more coming in requires more
Yeah,
navigation of relationship and.
right. But we would like to see that enshrined in the operation of those schools,
Mhm.
rather than it just, as it is now, it's just an agreement between the two principals. The one who asked and the other who said, yes, we can use that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Anybody else?
I
We
think
have a
that's,
very robust, after-school program at LMC. Actually, once they won the basketball.
Yeah, I say, and for a small
Actually,
school.
They did pretty good.
small
But
school
we have a very robust sports program there with, 3 or 4, the kids travel to, although it's really amazing and middle school athletic league that we operate, but, that would be, if they put in a 500 person, kid school there, and especially with their political clout, Shauna is gonna be, difficult to give us the same, sports, and I would contend that that's really bad to reduce the amount of physical activity and stick the kids in front of a stinking computer instead. That would be really bad for those young developing bodies. That right now, we got a lot of kids playing a lot of sports every day after school. And they move, they dance, and they play basketball, and they play baseball, and they do all that. But that would be, another school like that, we would have to be sucking wind a little bit.
Did the proposal cite how many students this new high school would accommodate?
400 to 600.
400 to 600. And they have 83 girls right now in there.
Yep.
But that assumes, I mean, I think, you guys, Jen or Ann, do you have the information? Because there was another school, another niche school recently that opened I believe here in Manhattan, that was kind of the same sort of bells and whistles kind of design. And it hasn't been able to attract enough students for full attendance. Do you remember what school that was? We were discussing it in the chat room, Jennifer.
the private one?
No, it's a.
You're not talking
it's
about
It's
language,
the last high school the superintendent opened, the last new high school.
language and
this-
diplomacy. Is that what
Yes.
the one you're talking about? Yeah, language and diplomacy. And they attempted to add screens. They attempted a number of things, and it was too niche. Like it just didn't draw students. There's two different ways this could go. This school opens and it's 600 kids, and then it just really destroys LMC's,
Right.
school. Or they're under enrolled, and in 8 years we've spent how much money on a school that then goes under. And I think I lean towards thinking it would be the latter. This would be just a tremendous waste of money, and the school would be under enrolled and then closed. But either direction, it's terrible.
I think that's a good resolution point.
Yeah.
I think niche school over proven any day is.
But Tricia, I think you made a really important point, and maybe I'm just thinking too pragmatically here. The strategic vision of this resolution, or the strategic impact of this resolution. The DOE, while we'd like to think they're driven by parental feedback and motivation, we know that isn't always the case. They've put forward a plan that has a program that somehow incorporates AI for 400 to 600 kids. As you, I might propose, as you think about putting forward a plan that makes your school a 6 to 12, are you talking about taking on 400 to 600 kids, which makes it easier for the DOE to get behind it? Or are you talking about 100 kids, which doesn't align at all with what they're thinking?
So,
How do you get to a yes more quickly?
right.
That's a good.
LMC is currently right around 300 students. That's 100 kids per grade. So if we were to say that number of seats would maintain for the high school, then eventually we're talking about.
Which gets to their number.
Now, could we expand, could that be expanded? Because it would also, if it's a strong program, you would have, you're obviously gonna have some kids leave, because no matter what, there'll be some kids who wanna go to art school or specialized high school or. But there would be open seats to begin with, but you could also look to expand it, if the high school then, say 120 students per grade as opposed to 100, which would get you to 500, roughly 500, right? 480, I believe. Right, so there is a lot of room. I think what we're trying to get to right now is a discussion, like a real discussion about space, about what exists, what intricacies are already built into it to the co-location aspects of it. And then what is the best use of it? And yes, if it is a high school, we would have to address some of those things. And it possibly, I have no authority to say this, but I'm going to say it, is that it could possibly mean that LMC might have to become a smaller school in order for it all to work. That maybe the numbers we have as a middle school wouldn't work if you really were trying to successfully.
Well, it sounds like it works perfectly. They want 400 to 600 in the high school.
Right.
You've got 400 in your, if you keep the same class size and class sections.
Right.
So, and if they must be confident they can house that many people there, although I doubt it. They've got 83 there right now, and I've never heard that there's like all this space to knock around in. So I'd actually like to do a walkthrough, because I think that they might be overestimating. And I think we should stay away from numbers, I think.
Yeah.
I think we should just advocate for the high school, the
Right.
6 to 12. And work out capacity
There's a lot of
later.
discussion that would happen if they were to open the door at all. There's a lot of discussion about what that high school could be. Would it incorporate this AI high school, or would this AI high school then, possibly move to another location? There's nothing intrinsic about the proposal for the AI high school that means it has to be 26th Broadway. They probably looked at Urban Assembly
Right, but then
being a low
they could,
enrollment spot and decided to move in there, but it could move in anywhere in District 2 or citywide.
the problem with 26 Broadway is there's a lot of, when I heard the association of the Google person, this building came to be because Rudy Giuliani crashed on the couch of the guy who runs 26 Broadway. I'm not kidding. I'm fine saying this publicly because it made the newspapers. And so that deal was made hastily to turn that into an educational complex. There's nothing educational about it. It's an office building, and all the spaces are awkward. And Kelly McGuire was a saint to be able to convert that space into anything logical, and he had the skills to do it.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate to have him. But this is a very difficult space. And I think that,
It is, for the record, the original headquarters of the Standard Oil Company.
yes, and
Yeah,
they're,
built in the Robber Baron era. It's a beautiful building. If you ever go to the museum across the street and turn around and really take it in, it's quite a gorgeous building.
it is a gorgeous building, but the 81
It's
new,
not purpose-built for education.
no, the 81 new entrance is not gorgeous.
No, it's not.
And it's a
New street at
security
all.
hazard.
It's not a lovely street.
So I think, my point is that there's always deals going into this building that are never well explained. And I think that we should push back hard on this. I've sketched this out as we had this meeting because I honestly think it's gonna be advantageous to pass this at March and not wait till April. Because I think that PEP meeting is right on our full board in April. So.
Wait, can I add something? Can I add something?
Uh-huh.
The PEP meeting that's for public comment is actually April 14th. So the actual
Oh,
PEP
then-
vote is on the 29th, but the public hearing is the 14th.
Okay, so even more reason. Writing this down.
While we're talking dates, I would extend an invitation to all of you. We are having a presentation tomorrow with the Office of School Planning at our general PTA meeting. So we have,
They're coming?
they're coming.
Wow.
So if anyone would like to attend, I'm happy to.
What time is this?
It's at 8:30 in the morning in the LMC
Wait.
cafeteria.
Are you sure Michael, school planning's coming?
That's what I'm told. The man who presented to us at the February 4th meeting, I'm told is coming.
Max, the one that I said was a
No.
liar at the town hall?
No, not the man who spoke at the town hall, the other
Okay.
man whose name escapes me, who was on the Zoom with Jennifer and I at the February 4th meeting.
Okay. I believe some other people are coming too. Greg Faulkner from PEP, the chair of PEP, is also planning on attending the PTA meetings.
All right, I'm happy to come.
We heard
I can come.
anecdotally that Christopher Marte is coming. I wrote them this morning for a confirmation and I have not heard back.
Okay.
But they had expressed interest in being, so.
All right, so I'm gonna hold up on the final details on this, but,
Tomorrow morning at 8:30.
but I'm gonna just,
Early in the morning.
I'm gonna just whip through this pretty quickly, just to let you guys know where I'm headed with this, and then I'm gonna attend this thing tomorrow morning before doing any further work, and then
We'll,
And then
Thank you, Tricia.
put it together, and then I'll send it out, to
we
the,
can arrange, we could possibly have someone take you down to the urban assembly space if you'd like to see it.
I think that would be really helpful.
Right, and we can show you the co-located spaces, within LNC as well, so.
All right, that'd be super helpful
What
before,
time- The meeting will probably go to about 9:30. If you had some time afterwards, we could probably, I'm happy to do it, but if I'm tied up, I'm sure someone will.
okay. I'll see how it goes. Just have to move some things around. So anyway, as of right now, just so we can put this up for vote, if everybody turns to page 2, why are we here? If you look at LMC's SLT and community opposed proposal due to, my whereases are pretty much gonna follow those 5 bullets right there. Talk about the desire to expand. It's then going to pull in some data on the size of the urban assembly. It's going to have a look back to the approval of that school because it was single gender, which helped them push through a co-location at that time. We're going to talk about the apples and oranges between 83 women and 600 co-ed. We're going to talk about the elevators. We're going to talk about the demand for 6 to 12 and include the percentages. We're going to talk about the fact that double transitions increase achievement loss and dropout, which has been proven. And find a source for that. Then we're going to talk about niche school over proven successful curriculum. And we're going to also pull in the other niche schools and pull some lack of success with some other ventures they had in this bucket. And then therefore be it resolved that the DOE agrees to expand LNC to a 6 to 12. And that we, trying to see when I'm going to use the word demand.
Do you feel strongly that the therefore be it resolved is the request that they expand LMC to 6 to 12 versus meeting with the leadership of the school to discuss?
Well, I mean, yes, if you have any doubts if there, is it across the board, Shanna, everyone has discussed the 6 to 12
Everybody is,
model?
the staff is super excited about it. Shanna is up for it. Kelly McGuire supports it. This is like a,
Okay,
I believe that there was an earlier proposal that was sent internally around the DOE. It never left the DOE, but the DOE has looked at it.
that was my next question. What proposals what are the discussions that you've had about 6 to 12? Who have they gone to at the DOE? When did they go? If you can
Good
get,
question. Yeah, let me answer. I believe, I think if you come tomorrow, and you have a moment to chat with, Kelly McGuire, if you.
okay,
yeah,
I
Kelly will
believe
be there tomorrow. And he's the one who knows about when he introduced it. It was shut down immediately though. Because I think this has been down the pike for a while.
and shut down by who?
School planning, I believe, and the high school superintendent.
And Kelly was part of the proposal? He was behind it?
Kelly
Well,
has
that matters.
supported, Kelly supports this.
Okay, and shut down by school enrollment.
So
Where?
because Kelly is a superintendent for, elementary schools and middle schools. Superintendent Beedelman is the high school superintendent, so. You get
Beedelman
into what I would
hold
only
on to the
call.
space. He was peeing
But
on his
he's
tail.
A turf floor. So basically, the 4th and 5th floors technically belong to Beedelman, and the 6th and 7th floors belong to Kelly.
Well, when you say belong,
And I have a big argument about that, because as a parent in the system, do I care what superintendent controls what space within the DOE? No.
well, I
Care
just,
what, so,
oftentimes the DOA will say this is the way it is.
right.
And then we will say, why does it have to be that way? And then we advocate for the change.
So,
They don't want to necessarily upset something they put in place. But that's why a good resolution is important here, along with the data on all of your communication. If you could forward it to me with dates, so that we have a really tight case, and how many times this ask has been put out there, what was said when they turned it down and why.
okay.
And Kelly is uniquely qualified because he's the one that deeply understands the existing curriculum at the middle school that will indeed inform the high school curriculum. And that he does, in my opinion, gets more of a vote than the high school principal, because the 6 to 12s are, a split jurisdiction. And so
I think it's looked at the wrong way around.
Mhm.
Superintendent Beedelman is in charge of the high school, of the space, because it is a high school. And because he runs high school. But if it's no longer just a high school, then why would he have any claim to the space?
Correct. So all those things have to be pointed out, but it really helps to have the history and the dates. And if you could send me the proposal that you guys sent to them that was shot down, that would be great to have.
I think
We
need
don't
to
have
let
that.
Kelly-
We don't have
that.
Where is it?
I believe
This
it's
is-
internal.
It
And
was
this
an
was long before we came to LMC. We're talking
So
about
was
years
it
ago.
Kelly or Shanna?
I think it was Kelly.
All right, then I'll call Kelly. I'll get it from him.
contact Kelly.
All right. So I think we've got the main points. Therefore, be it resolved, it would be that, it's inappropriate to put a co-ed 400 to 600 in a space that currently has 83 high school women. That was part of the deal, or co-location. And then the fact that you have previously requested this many years ago, and all the attributes of LMC currently, that therefore be it resolved that they create a 6 to 12 for LMC at this location. So that is the resolution in front of us. Like I said, I'll refine it and send it out for your guys' approval between now and the full board. Sounds good. And then, so if there's anything else anybody wants to add that you didn't hear me say, that I'm not thinking of,
Thank
all
you.
good?
Yeah,
All
I
right,
just want
great.
to thank you for letting us come and speak.
Someone needs to call the question.
Call the question.
Second.
Any
All right.
recusal, abstentions? Abstain, yes.
All those in favor?
Recusals in favor.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, motion
Okay,
carries.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time and consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you guys, Sue.
Of course, thank you so much for coming and being so quick on this. It gave us the opportunity to do this tonight, which is going to be really important timing.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Much
Always every one of those movies, like it's Chinatown, basically.
Right. Oh, gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. Jesse,
Sorry. One more.
Jeez,
One
I'm
more.
so sorry. Sorry, what was it? One more thing, youth.
The ball.
There's
Already
another,
ended it.
there's another item, Lucy, we forgot. It was not our last item.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well,
Are we?
you need this thing, right?
No.
Okay.
Unless there was anyone who wanted to.
So,
They're still on one.
Oh, okay,
They're
perfect.
not on the street.
all right, everybody, this will be super quick. It's just a report. Bear with me one second while I pull up, and then I'm actually going to hand most of this to Andrew, I'm just gonna read the emails as it came to me.
Probably. Music festival. So.
On Apple.
Okay. Yeah. Hipster, it's like hipster now. Yeah, I missed it. Yeah, it used to be just a music festival. I got it on my career. Did you catch the Beatles talk today? No. They're calling for other reasons.
Phone just stopped searching. I thought.
Are we done?
No, I'm just
No,
about to
item.
give you the last item. Just
Okay.
bear with me.
What
There
time
it is.
all food's closed?
Right, 10 o'clock.
I think. Thank you.
Okay,
See you
uh,
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank
this
you.
has been gripping, but I'm not gonna stay for your last item if you don't.
Fair.
It's okay.
okay,
See you later.
everybody.
Nice to meet you.
So Nick Spordone was in touch after I asked him for an update. He couldn't make it, but he sent this. In addition to daily ongoing weekday work, weekend work from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. will be commencing on March 14th or 15th. Current schedule indicates early April completion, weather permitting. In addition to the new turf, the project also includes additional netting to protect seating areas, new batting cages and outfield fencing, repairing the backstops, paver replacements along the pedestrian path, and new water misters and water bottle filling stations. So that's the report from Nick, and then I'd like to hand this to Andrew, who can give us some nuances.
I mean, I really don't think there's much to add to that. This was meant to come back online
Bob?
March. Sorry. No worries. This was meant to come back online March 2nd. Obviously, the weather really created the delays, particularly the freezing temperature, which created blocks of ice that they just couldn't deal with. The one concerning thing that came up at our DLL Downtown Little League board meeting last night, they actually had a crew on site Saturday. And one of our board members sort of stopped in to get a progress report and didn't quite have the same confidence factor of an early April delivery. So I have a call into Nick as of this morning, just look, we can't get wishful thinking here. We need,
What's opening day?
so right now it's scheduled for April 11th.
These are the same, this is like a year ago that we were.
This project was meant to happen last
year.
Yeah.
November. It was put on hold because the contractor they had worked with did not see the same timetable for project
Right.
completion as the authority did, so.
We were here already.
So anyway, the only issue I'd add, what Nick sent to Tricia is the update we have, but we're not sure we're fully in lockstep in terms of what the contractor is thinking from a timetable and the messaging from the authority,
So
so.
we're still maybe not there.
Again, I'm relying on what the authority is telling us, but we've heard conflicting messages, so we need to really ask the authority to give us a handover hard update as.
Was that the action plan at the end of the meeting?
Yes.
So you're expecting to hear back from them to confirm?
So my takeaway from our DLL board meeting last night was to reach back out to the authority and say, look, we're starting to hear some conflicting messages. Please don't tell us what we want to hear. Tell us what is the factual situation as we're sitting here today.
Right. And is there the ability to work some overtime?
So the fact that they are putting in weekend time was something we had requested when they lost better part of a month, so they were quite responsive to that. Yeah, I mean, maybe going further in terms of overtime might be a consideration.
Yeah. Okay. So if we need any support for that, what would that look like?
You know, I don't know that throwing more money at it is going to necessarily accelerate it. There's a process that has to happen. More hours certainly will help, and weekend time, I'm surprised they agreed to Sunday, quite honestly. I thought we'd get Saturday without an issue, but Sunday I was surprised about. we just, we need to get a factual update. And then we just need the weather to cooperate.
Yeah, okay.
We also use those fields for our middle school athletic league programs, and I just found out today, coincidentally, that this is on the agenda. I just found out today from my staff, don't tell me everything, and that we're delayed also for our baseball season, which I do believe starts even earlier than they, and I would just add, we had the same problem at Pier 25, the snow was,
Yeah.
you know, and the construction stuff is never predictable to the week, but
Right.
I think it's nice they're doing Saturday and Sunday work.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't respond back to this. Andrew, do you know why they aren't starting, till the 15th? Is there a reason they're not going now?
Well, they were there this Saturday.
Oh,
That
okay.
was the first time I actually saw it. It was a light staff. I think it was 3 or 4 people.
They showed staff.
Well, that's this weekend.
I guess you're right. It's
Yeah.
only a difference of 6 days, but, Sunday, 1, 2, 3.
Well, they're working throughout the week.
Oh, this week?
Yeah,
They're working every weekday.
Oh, okay, because he is down here, they're starting the 16th.
That's weekend work. They have not done
Oh, okay.
weekend. So they've been working every weekday that they've been able to get on the field, but they lost a solid month
Yeah.
of work.
I see.
So to help catch up, we had asked them to incorporate weekend time, thinking we'd get Saturday, but not Sunday. They've responded with both days.
Excellent, okay.
You
I'm
know
Kudos
what
to them.
percentage of the project is complete?
I don't. Well, all they've done, not all, but what they've done is they've worked on the sub base and they've leveled the immediate ground, but they've got to put 3 more layers on top of that. So there's still a lot to.
Is the material, I don't know, I'm gonna
Material's
walk
all
over,
here.
the materials are on site.
They've got it on site, yeah, but I'm sitting on pallets.
Okay.
All right, that's great. I misread that, so thanks for letting me know.
So you might have to move,
It was bad.
you might have to delay opening.
We've already planned that we're
Motion
more
to adjourn?
likely starting on the 18th.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't say that.
We haven't.
Yeah. What's the start date usually?